Hello friends, welcome to Civil Dunia. This is the chapter 3 of module 2 in which we will going to learn environmental problems and environmental pollution act, industrial policies and regulation. Okay, so let's get started with chapter 3. Environmental problems. As climate change continues, the costs have nowhere to go but up. This includes the cost of doing business. With top environmental issues becoming increasingly urgent, all kinds of businesses will suffer, including your own. The following 5 issues are the most likely to affect your business going forward. First one is demographic displacement. Rising sea levels are one of the top environmental factors that threaten business as usual. Your marketing department has the flexibility to follow its target market from north to south, urban to rural, but vast migrations of people in coastal cities would be difficult, if not impossible, to track, especially when they are fleeing flooding or the threat of severe storms. Natural disasters brought about by warming planet could cause the disintegration of your company's client base. Similarly, residents of areas experiencing severe drought will be displaced and forced to relocate, further disrupting your company's carefully planned marketing outreach. In addition, the World Health Organization reports an increase in infectious disease due to climate change that would certainly affect market. that would certainly affect consumer markets. Second one is shifting food supply. Agriculture and fisheries depend upon specific climatic conditions. According to the EPA, warming seawater is bringing about shifts in ocean ecosystems. If you own a restaurant, provide food service, or cater executive events, scarcity of shellfish, salmon, halibut, tuna, and other ocean catches will force menu changes and ultimately make it more difficult for you to supply your client. Climate change affects crop yields too, causing shortages in the food supply chain as well as losses losses for farmers. Business Insider reports that as much as 63% of the world's top wine growing regions may be in jeopardy by mid century because grapes are extremely sensitive to changes in temperature. Drought conditions are already driving changes in agricultural regions. Over the next few decades, global warming will negatively affect most crops and livestock. According to the US Department of Agriculture, farmers will be forced to adjust to the warming environment by making changes in the crops they grow. The stress of increasing temperatures is likely to influence the growth, fertility, and performance of livestock raised for food. Costs for comestibles will rise, and supplies are likely to become scarce. Business owners will need agility Business owners will need agility to keep pace. Third one is inflation. Direct and indirect increases in the cost of food and goods typically follow supply shortages, and inflation affects all aspects of the economy. Time magazine reports that researchers project a 23% drop in the average salary by 2100 due to climate change. It follows that the average business will experience a drop in revenue as well. Throughout the world, productivity depends on a climate that fosters those conditions where people perform the best. Rising temperatures are likely to affect how well people can do their jobs, how hard they are able to work and how hard they are able to work and how effectively they can be. The choice right now is not one of the economy or the environment. Instead, it is a matter of protecting the environment to safeguard the future economy. If the federal government took steps now to mitigate future inflation due to the due to a changing climate, it might be able to minimize economic crisis. If it does nothing, it will pay double once the economy reacts to the disruption of warming temperatures. Our fourth point is uncertainty. The uncertainty that climate change brings about is one of the most compelling ways the environment will affect your business, according to Triple Pandit. With business and industry unable or unwilling to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions to the level that would significantly slow climate change, the future is uncertain and risky. The type, timing, locations, and magnitude of changes due to global warming are difficult to predict and even harder to prepare for. Many businesses are likely to hunker down until these effects become clear, slowing the economy and precluding growth. Others may take leaps of faith that do not pan out, thus experiencing significant losses. Civil unrest will increase with the uncertainty of a changing climate, compounded with rising sea levels that cause displacement and drought that exacerbates famine and disease. Civil unrest disrupts business as usual with looting, theft, and destruction of property. If your establishment is a storefront, it could suffer physical destruction. If it is online, it could be hacked and your customers' sensitive personal information stolen. When crisis triggers people's survival instincts, fear and uncertainty drives aberrant behavior and lawlessness. Fifth one is expense. Depending upon the kind of business you own, you may need to budget for equipment upgrades for retrofits to make it cleaner and greener, according to Investopedia. Throughout the world, leaders are pledging to reduce those emissions that insulate the earth and accelerate climate change. If you own a delivery business, for example, you may face replacement of your fleet with hybrid or electric vehicles to reduce carbon emissions. If you are in manufacturing, you may have to retrofit your machinery to comply with stricter environmental regulations. For more ideas on making your business greener, you should read our you should ru- you should read our post on 9 must-have products to go green at work. The US alone must cut 80% of its greenhouse gas emissions, and that represents a big expense for taxpayers, according to the National Resources Defense Council. It projects that the cost of water for the nation will near the $1 trillion mark by the year 2100, an over four-fold increase compared to today. The expense of real estate losses will multiply by a factor of 10 and storm damage by a factor of 40. Now we will going to learn Environmental Pollution Act. The Environment Protection Act was acted in 1986 with the objective of providing for the protection and improvement of the environment. It empowers the central government to establish authorities under Section 3 and 3, change with the man- change with the mandate of preventing environmental pollution in all its forms and to tackle specific environmental problems that are peculiar to different of the country. The act was amended in 1991. What are the objectives of this act? Objectives are to protect and improve air, water and land environment, to prevent hazards to all living creatures and prosperities, to maintain a pleasant relationship between human beings and their environment. Important features of this act are: this act empowers the government to lay down procedures and safeguards for prevention of accidents that cause pollution and remedial measures and accident occur. The government has the authority to close, prohibit or regulate any industry or its operation if violation of the provision of the act occur. Any person who fails to comply or contravenes any provision of the act is punishable with imprisonment for a term extending up to 5 years, for a fine up to 1 lakh rupees or both. An additional fine of rupees 5,000 per day may be imposed for entire period of violation of rules. The Act fixes the liability on the person who is directly in charge unless it is proved that the offence was committed without his or her knowledge or consent. This Act empowers the officer of central government to inspect the site and collect samples of air, water, soil, or other material for testing. This Act is the most comprehensive legislation with powers for central government to act directly without interference from regulatory authorities or agencies. The central government hereby makes the following rules further to amend the Environment Protection Rules 1986, which are namely industrial policy. It is a formal declaration by the government whereby it outlines general policies for industries objective. The industrial policy. It is a formal declaration by the government whereby it outlines general policies for industry's objective. The industrial policy of a country generally deals with the ideology of the current political dispensation. Thereby, the main objective of any industrial policy is to augment the industrial production, enhance the industrial growth, which leads to economic growth by optimum resources. Modernization, balanced industrial development and balanced regional development, coordinated development of large as well as small medium cottage, determination of area of operation under private and public sector, enhance cordial relation between workers and management, and proper utilization of the domestic or foreign capital to set the direction of foreign investors and foreign investment. Industrial policy resolutions. After independence, India has been released industrial policy around 6 times. Industrial Policy Resolution of 1948, Industrial Policy Resolution of 1956, Industrial Policy Resolution of 1977, Industrial Policy Resolution of 1980, Industrial Policy Resolution of 1990, Industrial Policy Resolution of 1991. Out of these 6 resolutions, IPR 1948, 1956 and 1991 are more important, whereas IP 1977, 1980 and 1990 are just the extension of Industrial Policy Resolution 1956. Industrial Policy Resolution of 1948. The Government of India declared its first industrial policy on 6th April 1948. The Industrial Policy 1948 was presented in the Parliament by the Industry Minister Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee. India ushered into a mixed economy, taking the society on elastic pattern. The large industries were classified in 4 categories. First one is strategy industries, which includes public sector like defense, atomic energy, railway. Total control is of central government. Second one is basic industries or key industries. They are public cum private like coal, iron, aeroplane manufacturing, telephone, wireless manufacturing, military, refinery oil, etc. First, it will be in control of private sector. If they fail, then after 10 years, it is taken over the government. Third one is important industries controlled by private sector like automobile, textile, cement, sugar, etc. worked by private sector but in the supervision of government. Fourth one is industries like private and cooperative sector. Apart from the fourfold classification of the industries, the Industrial Policy 1948 endeavored to protect cottage and small scale industries by according them priority status. Now we will going to study Industrial Policy Resolution of 1956. The Industrial Policy Resolution of 1956 was based upon the Mahalanobis model of growth, which suggested that emphasis on heavy industries would lead the economy towards a long-term higher growth path. The Industrial Policy Resolution of 1956 classified industries into three categories, which are Schedule A industries, Schedule A industries, which include 17 industries exclusively under the domain of the government. These included inter alia, railway, air transport, arms and ammunition, iron and steel, and atomic energy. Schedule B industries, which includes 12 industries, which were envisaged to be progressively state owned, but private sector was expected to supplement the efforts of the state. Schedule C industries, the third category, contained all the remaining industries, and it was expected that private sector would initiate development of these industries, but they would remain open for the state well. It was planned after the first 5-year plan, in which agriculture was the agenda, but in the second 5-year plan, the objective was industrial development. Here is the starting of licensing Raj. Before next industrial policy, two more licensing acts were introduced. First one is monopolistic and restrictive trade practice under MRTP Act 1969, introduced in August 1966 in Parliament but passed in December 1969. The MRTP Act 1969 was enacted to ensure that the operation of the economic system does not result in the concentration of economic power in hands of few to provide for the control of monopolies. To prohibit monopolistic and restrictive trade practices, the MRTP Act extends to the whole of India except second one is the Foreign Exchange Regulation Act FERA. Was legislation passed in India in 1973 that imposed strict regulation on certain kinds of payment, foreign exchange, forex, and securities, and the transactions which had an indirect impact on the foreign exchange and the import and export of currency. The bill was formulated with the aim of regulating payments, foreign exchange. FERA applied to all citizens of India all over the India. The idea was to regulate the foreign payments, regulate the dealings in foreign exchange and securities, and conservation of foreign exchange for the nation. Now we will going to study Industrial Policy Resolution 1977. The Industrial Policy Statement 1977 was announced by Janata Government led by Morarji Desai on 23rd of December 1977. Silent features of Industrial Policy Statement 1977 are special focus on small scale industries, it focus on labor intensive technology, viability of public sector, focus on indigenous technology, focus on self sufficiency, balanced regional development, workers' participation, restrictions on foreign investments. But it is not able to implement in ground level. Now we will going to learn Industrial Policy Resolution 1980. Congress came back to power in 1980, indicated to thrust in industrial policy of 1956. On 25th July 1980, the new industrial policy was announced to improve the efficiency of public sector enterprises, integrating industrial development by promoting the concept of economic federation, redefining the small and tiny units, regulations of unauthorized excess capacities, state policy on mergers and takeover of sick units. Industrial Policy Resolution of 1990. Janata Dal government announced its new industrial policy on May 31st, 1990, Its silent features are as follows: the investment ceiling raised, focus on small scale sector, central investment subsidy, modernization and upgradation of technology. A new apex bank SIDBI has been established to ensure adequate and timely flow of credit for the small scale industries, and bureaucratic control will be reduced. Now we will study Industrial Policy Resolution of 1991. In view socialistic pattern, Indian government had put much restrictions in foreign investment and foreign company, so that many foreign company left India. Company like IBM and Coca-Cola are among them. On July 24, 1991, Government of India announced its new industrial policy with an aim to correct the distortion, weakness of the industrial structure of the country. Silent features of IPR 1991 are: this new model of economic reforms is commonly known as the LPG or liberalization, privatization and globalization model. The primary objective of this model was to make the economy of India the fastest developing in the globe, with capabilities that help it match up with the biggest economic of the world. To meet above objective, Government of India made too many reforms, which are licensing system, industrial licensing policy. This policy abolished the industrial licensing for all industries except for a short list of 18 industries. This list of 18 industries was further pruned in 19, whereby the number reduced to 5 industries, which drugs and pharmaceuticals, hazardous chemicals, explosives such as gunpowder and detonating fuses, and electronic, aerospace and defense equipment, tobacco products, and alcoholic drinks. The compulsion for obtaining prior approval for setting units in metros was also removed. However, in this policy, industries reserved for the small scale sector were continued to be so reserved. uh, Public sector, only two sectors were finally left reserved for public sector: nuclear energy and mineral, which are used for nuclear power, and railway transport, foreign investment and capital. This was the first industrial policy in which foreign companies were allowed to have majority stake in India. In 47 high priority industries, up to 51% FDI was allowed. For export trading houses, FDI up to 74% was allowed. Today, there are numerous sectors in the economy where government allows 100% FDI. The government also established a special empowered board called Foreign Investment Promotion Board (FIPB) to negotiate with international firms and approve FDI in selected areas. If you want to download PDF of this video, please visit our Telegram channel Civil Dunya. And if you gain some knowledge from this video, please like this video and subscribe this channel, and also stay tuned with this channel for more civil engineering related videos and for the upcoming videos on entrepreneurship development. Thanks for watching.